Hello, John Bloodworth, Gentleman Crafter here with the assembly instructions for your 3D postbox. Now, as you can see, this is a big project. It's fully functional, so you can post your cards up to 5 by 7 inches and then remove the lid to retrieve them. I've done it in the classic colours of black and red, but you could of course theme this to your special occasion. Now, for the base, you will have 16 of these side panels. You will have the top, and you will have the base, which has these little flaps in the centre as well. They'll come in handy later on, and I'll explain why as we're putting this together. Now, for that part, you're going to basically turn it over, apply glue to all of those centre tabs, and fold them all back, sticking them on itself. This is basically going to add a little bit of stability to the base, or strength, and also it's going to allow your hand to get in when you're putting the project together. See, I do think of everything. Now, my tip is to start with the top, apply glue to one tab, and introduce one of the side panels with the short end facing in towards that top section. All of the folds on all of the parts are mountain folds, so you shouldn't go wrong there. Then what you're going to do is work your way around. I'm working in a counterclockwise direction just because it allows me to place the next piece on top of the tab from the previous piece. You can of course work in the opposite direction if you want, but you'll end up having to do a lot of jiggling with the tabs. When you've got those all stuck down, turn the piece over and fold all of those short tabs back. Then we're going to start working one tab at a time, applying glue and then sticking it to its partner. Now initially it'll be a little bit of a wiggle and a little bit of a faff, but as you continue working it will get much easier as the piece comes together. My tip here is take your time. Work one tab at a time and just take your time to make sure things are lined up and fully stuck before you move on to the next. This way you know you've got things right as you're working along, and it'll look nice and neat when you've finished. Now you can work your way around all of the center tabs and then come back to the side tabs, but I did find as I was doing the test builds that actually once I'd got the first few smaller tabs done, starting to assemble the side pieces also helped form the structure of that base and helped things fall into place. I'm using very sparing amounts of bookbinding glue for this because it's quick grab and low moisture. So the quick grab helps us build things fast, and the low moisture helps stop your cardstock wrinkling. There's a tongue twister. Now, once you've got all of those pieces stuck, we're going to introduce the base. So we'll turn this over, and you can see where all of those center tabs have been folded in on themselves. And I'm going to fold back all of the outer tabs. Then I'm going to apply glue to one of those tabs and introduce it to the base on one of the side sections. Now this is going to be difficult for me to show from this angle, but I will show you it once it's stuck in place. Again, take your time to make sure things are lined up and fully stuck before moving on to the next piece. So there we go, you can see, and you'll see how the actual angle of the tabs on the side panel and the top match each other. So that's one way, along with the score line, to make sure that you've lined things up correctly. Now, there's various ways of working from this point. You could continue in a clockwise direction or anti-clockwise direction, and you can see how that hole in the base helps you get in there to help stick those tabs down. Alternatively, you could work opposites, so stick one side, then the other, then the other, then the other, and so on and so forth all the way around. And once you've done that, that's your base complete, and you'll be ready to move on to part 2 of this tutorial, which will focus on building the body of the postbox. In this part, we'll focus on building the body. This particular piece is going to form the letterbox, and the two outer tabs and those tabs on the curved outlines will be valley folds. The other 4 tabs will be mountain folds. On these tiny side pieces you'll have 2 valley folds for the larger tabs and a mountain fold for the small tab. And then on those long pieces it's a mountain fold. On these 3 larger pieces they are all mountain folds. So you'll have 2 blanks and 1 with a slot. Each has a tab on the side. Then you've got the base, which is basically the 16-sided shape with tabs. All are mountain folds. Now for this piece it is going to be a little bit tricky, but stick with it, and I've tried to make it as easy as possible. So I'm going to apply glue to the tab on one of the long pieces, fold that back, and then introduce it to the mouth of that letterbox opening, trying to make sure it's as central as possible. And again, take your time, make sure it's fully stuck before moving on. Next up, I'll do its opposite partner. Again, applying glue to that tab and positioning it on the opposite side of the opening of the letterbox. After that has stuck down, I'll attach the 2 side pieces using the thin tab. Same as before, apply the glue, introduce it to the opening and make sure it sticks down fully before moving on. The reason I've made this in 4 sections is because on the test builds I found that having any parts pre-attached did sometimes cause problems with construction. Next up, I'm going to apply glue to one of the large tabs on the side piece, fold this up to meet its partner, and then again on the other side. This allows you a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that you've got nice crisp clean corners when it comes to the opening of that letterbox. Then we'll do the opposite side. And I applied glue to both tabs on this instance because it was a little bit tricky to get the glue in once you'd folded that side up. So there's the opening. Next up, what we're going to do is form the outer casing by folding back those 4 large side tabs and introducing them to their partners. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky because in my case I've got sausage fingers, so they're a little bit tricky to get in there, but if you've got any clips, something like hairpins, long thin clips, they will help you a lot get those into place and stuck while the glue grabs. But if you're using a quick grab glue like I do, a bookbinding glue, you shouldn't have to wait too long, and as long as the top edge is stuck you should be fine. So there we go, last part going in there. And that's the actual letterbox section fully formed. Next up we're going to bring in the section to which we're going to put it in. And what we'll do is introduce it from the back of that section, so the tab on the side will be on the right, and you'll have a long section below and a short section above the opening. And then one by one we're going to apply those tabs. So there's the first one done. And what I did is I worked opposites. So one end, then the other, and then basically one by one working my way into the center. Again, this gives you a little bit of wiggle time or wiggle room to maneuver things into position and make sure it's fully lined up and aligned. So as I say, just work your way around until you've got them all done, and there you go. It's almost like a welder's mask. Anyway, so we've got the base here, and what we're going to do is fold in a side tab, make sure the long edge or the long bit below the letterbox itself is introduced to that, and then position one of those tabs to one of the side panels and stick it in place. And then work your way along. It doesn't matter whether you start at one end and work your way to the other, or whether you start in the middle and work your way out. Either will do. So you can see there, that's in place now. And what I'll do is I'll just move the camera back a bit so that we can see better. Next up, you're going to take one of those blank side panels and you'll put the side that has no tab up against the side of the other piece that has a tab. I started by sticking one of the base tabs to that side panel and then applying glue to the long edge rather than trying to get it up the side of that tab. Lifting that up and then positioning that and aligning it, and then laying the project flat to be able to press against the table. And then I basically just worked my way around the remaining tabs, sticking that piece in place. Now just a thought here, by the way, the letterbox itself, or the letter slot, cuts from one piece of cardstock, and the body cuts from various others, so you could actually have a multicoloured postbox if you wanted. Now for this final piece, it's similar to that piece we've just done. We'll start with the blank long edge of this piece towards the tabbed end of the previous piece. Stick one of the base tabs down and then apply the glue to the edge of the next piece and lift it up and put it in place. Again, using the table as something to press against to get that fully stuck. And then again, working the way around tab by tab to stick that in place. Now I have sped this up quite a bit, but I wanted to make sure you saw everything. And then the final bit is getting that last section in place. And there we go. So you see, fully functioning letterbox. Next thing you're going to do is apply the base to that body. So what you'll do is apply glue to the entirety of the surface of the top of that base and then introduce the body to it. Probably from the top is a lot easier rather than doing it on the side as I showed you, and then stick those two together. Welcome to part 3 of the assembly instructions for your post office box project, and this is the lid. Now this is formed from 16 of these panels, all of which have mounting folds apart from the tab on the bottom edge, which is a valley fold, and then a top section which is a 16-sided shape, all with mounting folded tabs. So let's make a start. You're going to apply some glue to one of the tabs. Then you'll grab one of the side panels and stick the fatter end with no tab on that tab. As with all of the stages of this project, take your time, make sure things are lined up. You'll then take the next one and place it in position. And then keep going all the way around until you've got them all in place. Next up, turn that over and fold back all the small tabs that are nearest to the top of that piece. Then you're going to apply glue to one, bring it up to meet its partner, and hold it in place until it's fully grabbed. Now in this instance, I'm suggesting working your way out rather than around. So out first, then around. So you'll have 3 tabs to put in place. But I'm starting with just the 2 and then doing the 3rd. So you can see how this is forming that sort of rounded shape on the edge of the postbox lid. If it helps, you can fold those bottom sections out. I found that it did because it allowed me a little bit extra room to get into those tabs. So you'll do that, work your way around the entirety of the project until you've got basically what looks like a squashed squid. Then you'll apply glue to... Now, I've started out by applying glue to the tabs, and you'll fold that in to meet the first scoreline on the lid. Like that. And in this case, I worked opposites. Now, as I was working, I did find that actually putting the glue on the lid itself near the scoreline actually helped me a little bit. So the choice is yours, but you'll work your way around until you've got all of those stuck in place, and then just crisp up that little inside edge, and you've got your lid complete. Now it is a tight fit, so you will need to maybe squish the body a little bit to get it on, but it'll be a nice solid fit. And there we have your 3D postbox project. I hope you have fun making and using this, and I look forward to seeing what you make in the future.